Good time of day, guys. My name is Godzi, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry, Ch.8 Matsuribayashi. Last episode, we got a lot more stuff from Takano's backstory, like how she's not a hyper-nationalist, for one, but attended some venue thingy, I guess, and then got her project approved by a bunch of bureaucrats, so good for her, yeah. An episode of Sotsu is aired, so we're going into Sotsu discussion for episode 6, so spoilers for episode 6 of Sotsu. If you don't want spoilers, then mute until I bring down the menu. Here we go. Alright, I do not really feel like I have that much to say this time, because I didn't write much. Every time I finish an episode, I sit down and write for a little bit, just to condense my thoughts down and make these discussions less long. And I wrote not nearly as much as I did for any previous episode. So, yeah, and I think that's mostly because I think overall Wata Akashi is possibly my favorite arc in all of Go and Sotsu. I might need to let it settle for a little bit and think about it a little more, before I say for sure whether or not I like it more than Satakawashi. And plus, Satakawashi could definitely have some, greater meaning as we get further into Sotsu, and I imagine that it will, so it'll probably still end up being my favorite, but Wata Akashi, at the very least, would hold a very strong second place as things stand right now. And the main reason for that is because not only were Wata Akashi's answers very, very satisfying compared to Oni Akashi, but Mion being affected by Hinamizawa syndrome greatly carried the arc, I feel. Gave it something unique for us to watch. It made it a lot more interesting than Oni Akashi, that's for sure. And also just, you know, Wata Damashi, Tatari Damashi, and them. So, yeah, it gave us something new to bite on, rather than just, here's Rena killing Rina again and hiding her body. So, yeah. I'm not trying to downplay Oni Akashi. I still think Oni Akashi was fine, but Wata Akashi blows it out of the water easily. Which is funny, because Oni Damashi was way more interesting than Wata Damashi. And I think that's mostly because Oni Damashi, a bit less goes on behind the scenes, so the stuff that goes on elsewhere is still interesting. But Wata Damashi, there's not really much going on in Keiichi Land, you know? There's not really much going on over there. What Mion's doing is way more interesting. Holy shit, it's more interesting. But, yeah. I was initially a little disappointed that Mion was the one to kill Rika instead of Satoko. Because if you remember back when I discussed the first episode of Neko Damashi, when Rika was playing that hide-and-seek game, there was a scene where Mion opened the septic area. I thought it was an outhouse for a while, but I guess it's a septic. And she just, you know, opens it thinking Rika could be hiding in there, which made me think, okay, if Rika could hide in there without opening the door first, with the key, then that means that Satoko could have as well, and therefore Satoko could have killed Rika and put her in there without the key. But then I guess that scene was just meant to imply that Mion knew where the key was, so Mion was the one to kill Rika, and obviously she did. And I was initially disappointed by that at first, but I think overall I'm fine with it. Not necessarily because I think it's an interesting answer, but because it made the last scene of the arc where Mion and Satoko were talking a lot more interesting. And it also set up a very interesting dilemma for Satoko, with her being like, I have to die after Rika. If Rika doesn't die before I do, then that's a huge problem. I don't think that was the most interesting thing about the arc. I still think Mion carried it very fucking hard. But it was still an interesting way to close off the arc, giving Satoko a little problem like that. And also making the last part of the arc a lot more interesting than it would have been otherwise. Like, I guess otherwise, if it were Satoko that killed Rika, then how would that conversation go? Like, Satoko goes to her house with a gun anyways, and Mion is just like, I tried to kill Rika. Were you the one that killed Rika? Yes, I was. Bang, kills Mion. Bang, kills self. So, yeah, that would be a little bit less interesting than Satoko trying to get out of Mion whether or not she killed Rika. But, yeah, it was just a lot more interesting seeing how this arc went, so... yeah, I don't really have much else to say. It was a very interesting arc, although Mion did, in fact, carry the fuck out of it. So, yeah, it's also interesting seeing how many parallels there are between Mion having Hinamizawa syndrome and Shion having it. Like, she does basically the same things, but for different, kind of similar reasons, actually. I mean, they are twins, so it makes sense. It's just a slightly different order of operations. Because, like, when it's Shion, she starts by imprisoning Mion, killing Oreo, and dumping her in the well. Trying to get consoled by Kimiyoshi, but then killing him when he said something about Satoshi. Then killing Rika when she comes over. Killing Satoko by extension, because she then came over, I guess. And then she fucking dies later after stabbing Keiichi. But with Mion, it's basically the same steps, and she kills basically the same people. Like, all the same people died in Watadamashi / Wata Akashi, as in Watanagashi and Mayakashi, so... yeah. It was just very interesting overall, that's really all I have to say. But I do still think Tatari Akashi is possibly going to be even more satisfying, because we know basically jack fucking shit of what happened behind the scenes in Tatari Akashi, because obviously shit needs to be incited by Satoko, and if Satoko doesn't incite anything, then nothing's gonna fucking happen. So, yeah, and since she's off-screen for 95% of Tatari Damashi, Tatari Akashi's gonna feel like a completely different arc. And Wata Akashi already felt like that compared to Wata Damashi, as Mayakashi did to Watanagashi. But still, I'm not implying Watanagashi and Mayakashi are the same world, obviously, because they are not. But still, it's generally, like, what Sotsu is doing to the Go arcs, what Mayakashi did to Watanagashi, just with slight differences. So, yeah. That's really all I have to say about this episode. I liked it a lot. I'm excited for Tatari Akashi. I don't know how... I can't even imagine how long Tatari Akashi will be, because Tatari Damashi was 5 episodes. So is Tatari Akashi going to be 4? And we'll go straight to episode 10, and then have, like, one final arc, which isn't a revelation arc? I don't know, but whatever. I'm interested to see what happens regardless, so... yeah. Here's to a good 3 or 4 episode arc. Likely not going to be 5, but whatever happens, happens. It could even be 2. I doubt it, but who knows. Alright. Welcome back, guys. That wasn't too long, now was it? Let's just get into this then now. Oh, wait, before, actually, I completely forgot about something I was told in the comments last episode, which is that a lot of this beginning part of this chapter was cut out in a lot of releases of the game because of Ryukishi's spicy political takes. So I'm glad that I have an uncut version, because I live for shit like that. That's why Caconia is so interesting, because it's just a lot of political stuff, and it isn't fucking weird at all. It's just based children being based. And in this one, it's a based narrator, and Takano, the only good part of her, I guess. So, yeah, let's get into this. Allow me to introduce you. This is Major Takano. Major, this is Dr. Kyosuke Irie. Ah. Hello, I'm Irie. Irie seemed extremely nervous at our first meeting. He probably thought I was in charge of some suspicious organization. Please relax. Call me Takano. Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Please have a seat. A model, lower-middle-class citizen was a good way to describe Kyosuke Irie's demeanor. One could also say he was the stereotypical type of person to get conveniently discarded after those crafty elders used their seniority to constantly pick on him. He certainly doesn't seem as cunning as I am, but that doesn't mean he isn't ambitious. Like me, he's a young person who dreams of accomplishing something great and leaving his name upon generations to come. While he acts humble in person like this, his articles were actually progressive as well as aggressive. The gap between the two was quite intense. I've read the data concerning this Hinamizawa syndrome. What did you think? Well, it's really quite the shock. It's very possible that this is something that steps onto the dark side of today's medicine, but I can hardly control my intellectual excitement in knowing it's a mystery that is yet to be solved. Hearing that made me chuckle. Irie is more than interested in Hinamizawa syndrome, which is good enough for me. She had been through the ringer with far too many people to reach this day, so her honed intuition could tell. She would get along with this man. Even if he isn't useful to me, he won't cause any problems. For both me and my sponsor, he's the best person possible for the job. I was shocked too. To imagine a man of your experience and knowledge was just wasting away in the medical office without any responsibilities or work to accomplish. I have to say, that was a grave loss to the medical field. Irie laughed. He probably thought I didn't know, but I had received detailed documents on him, so I knew why he was exiled from the limelight despite his rare talent and achievements. He's fucking weird. He displayed extraordinary skill working under a neurosurgery expert, that's the word, and everyone expected a bright future from him. But he was kicked out due to an ethical controversy. Don't tell me it was maid shit. Irie's pet theory was that the antisocial behavior of individuals could be explained by brain disorders, okay? He believed that no one in this world was born a villain, and that they were all just poor patients in need of treatment. Yeah, fair. He proposed that they were all proper and normal when born, yet as they matured, psychogenesis and various exogenous factors caused brain disorders that made them into villains. Therefore, what those evil people need isn't punishment, it is treatment. And if their diseases are treated, they will become good citizens again. That manner of thinking actually fell in line with the Confucian belief of innate human goodness. According to this theory, humans are born with the capacity for altruism toward their kind, and it is only afterward that they learn and acquire cruelty. I feel like the game turned up a little, so I'm gonna try and turn it down a smidgen. That's a little better, I guess. Irie believed that acquisition was the result of brain disorders. The human brain creates human thoughts. Therefore, if one becomes emotionally ill, that means their brain is ill. So if their brain gets treatment, they will recover emotionally too. That field was called psychosurgery. It's fallen out of practice in the current Heisei era, but the surgical techniques were applauded until mid-Showa. Especially since it produced spectacular results on a chronic mental patient that was said to be incurable. The man who invented it even won a Nobel Prize. That was how revolutionary it was. Humans think. That's why they become ill. Everyone knows that's why those who overthink matters are prone to mental illness. When the organ that thinks and debates grows ill, humans deviate from social behavior. That part is called the frontal lobe. Put simply, psychosurgery is surgery performed to operate on the frontal lobe. This kind of surgery doesn't require removing the whole epicranium. A small hole is drilled through the cranium, and a special scalpel is inserted down to cut it. It's not a major surgery, just a technique for quickly operating on the precious frontal lobe. Indeed, it was revolutionary in its simplicity. All the severely ill mental patients miraculously recovered, so the technique spread around the world quickly. Those with obstinate and chronic mental illnesses, the severely ill trapped in deep, inescapable depression, all of those could be saved by this technique. Throughout history, humans have come up with many different religions and magic tricks to heal emotional injuries. So needless to say, the idea of being able to treat them with a surgical technique was truly revolutionary. Irie admired psychosurgery, and pushed forward in the field of surgical techniques to treat human souls. However, from the modern human rights standpoint, severing a portion of the brain simply because someone is emotionally disturbed is absolutely out of the question. People gradually started to think differently, and said that psychosurgery was inhumane. The frontal lobe controls how people think, but it is also the part that makes humans act human. There were quite a few cases where that cut caused drastic, irreversible changes in the patient. A baseless happiness born from lack of thought. A change in personality. A loss of interest in everything. Major mood swings due to a lack of control over one's emotions. Some even lost part of their memories. Of course, some didn't even survive the surgery. By the mid-1960s, use of psychosurgery declined. Also, due to development of psychotropic medicine, the surgery was hardly performed anymore anyway. Yet, some people still believed in the idea, and continued to perform the surgery and gather clinical data. They wanted people to recognize the value of the technique once again. Some of these surgeries were performed without consent. One theory is that in Japan alone, there were thousands of people who woke up from general anesthesia only to find part of their brain had been removed. Today, to perform such a surgery without a patient's consent is considered totally unethical, but it was different at the time. For one thing, the idea that doctors required prior patient consent was proliferated in the modern Heisei era. Therefore, people at the time didn't think it was that big of an issue. It was only later that people started to argue that it was inhumane. Finally, a decision was reached and the curtain closed with the rejection of psychosurgery. Later, the Japanese Society of Psychology and Neurology passed a resolution to end psychosurgery. After that, psychosurgery was banned throughout Japan and made a forbidden subject of Japanese medicine. Irie was the leading person in the field of psychosurgery. He continued to advocate its effectiveness and results. Therefore, he was treated as a war criminal who practiced inhumane medicine, and he was exiled from the public eye. However, that doesn't mean he changed his beliefs. He still believes that immoral behavior is caused by brain disorders, and the secret of treating them is, in fact, hidden in the brain. So the existence of Hinamizawa syndrome, caused by parasites living in the brain that control human emotions, actually affirms his theory. If it's alright with you, I would love to accept this position. Of course. Given Irie's history, he would never turn down this offer. Despite his mild-mannered appearance, Irie was possessed by a mighty ambition. There was no way he didn't desire a chance to complete research that would prove himself to the medical society that ostracized him. I'm handing him that chance on a silver platter. Thank you very much. I knew you'd accept. We are very lucky to have an expert like you. You'll be a great help. But are you okay with me being the director? Wouldn't it be better for you to hold that position, Takano-san? I'm just a simple doctor. Being in charge of other people is... Don't worry, I'll give you my full support. Our sponsor wanted to pick a civilian. Besides, wouldn't you like to be called Director Irie? But... Irie laughed to hide his embarrassment. We're building a research center in Hinamizawa. Publicly, it will be a clinic. So, with your consent, Dr. Irie, we'd like to call it the Irie Clinic. Lord of my own castle. That's more than I deserve. You'll also be placed under the SDF, so you'll be registered as a medical officer with them. Since you'll be my superior, you'll be a Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel Irie. How does that sound to you? I'm not a military man. I'd rather refrain from being called Lieutenant Colonel. Director is already a frightening title as is. Oh my. He's getting a chance to research brain parasites, plus being given the title of director of a new clinic as camouflage. Plus, it comes with staff and funding. He'll even have support from the Defense Agency and the Ministry of Health and Welfare, as well as a research lab with state-of-the-art equipment. No wonder he's laughing so excitedly. However, there are some risks, too. Since he'll be involved with this secret research, he has an obligation to keep it a secret. Also, he is going to an area plagued by a mysterious and bizarre disease. There's no guarantee he won't contract it himself. But Irie is too young to even think about those things. Aware of all the risks, he quickly signed the contract with the ambition to have people recognize his talent once again. When I saw him sign the contract, I finally relaxed. I knew he would agree to join us, but at the same time I was afraid of the chance that he'd refuse. Selecting a director proved more difficult than expected, and the only candidate Takano paired well with was Irie. So if Irie refused to take the position, then frankly she'd be placed in an even worse situation. Now that Irie has agreed to take the position, research on Hinamizawa syndrome can finally begin. The research center, or rather the clinic, will be completed next spring. The Ministry of Health and Welfare and the Defense Agency will send the best equipment and staff, plus an abundant supply of funds. Then finally, our research will begin in earnest. Everything is going well. Of course it is. I've put so much effort into making sure things went smoothly up to this point. Okay, that's it. Congratulations, Director Irie. Major, the contract has been signed. Thank you. I look forward to working with you, Director Irie. I look forward to working with you too, Takano-san. I hope we can get along. I'll be devoting my best efforts to this. No, thank you. Let's both give our best. Now the position of director has been filled. Everything is set. Okay. That's great. Just great. Congratulations, Takano-san. No, Major Takano, isn't it? This was all possible thanks to your assistance. I must give my thanks, all of you. Oh, don't mention it. But we should save our congratulations until you finish your research, huh? You're only at the starting line, aren't you? Exactly. I'll be devoting my every waking moment to this research. We can hardly wait to see the result of what Dr. Takano couldn't finish. Well now, Sensei. Let's not talk about business today. Let's have a toast to congratulate Takano-san and the Irie Institute. Nagata, huh? Hello, everyone. I'm Nagata from the Ministry of Health and Welfare. I would like to say a few things before the toast. Takano-san. Make sure he works hard, okay? His research center will be supporting the institute. If you need any technical support, just call him. Make him work hard? No, I have to thank you for your support. I'm Takano. Pleased to meet you. Takano-san, let me introduce you to these gentlemen. Meet Tomitake-kun and Okonogi-kun from the Self-Defense Force. They're your backup from the SDF. I'll let them introduce themselves. Hello, Tomitake. Nice to meet you. I'm Tomitake. I've been commanded to serve as auditor of this project. I look forward to working with you. The funding for our research is largely coming from the SDF. It's only natural for the SDF to assign a watchdog to make sure reasonable research is taking place. However, someone in a position like that should be my opponent. Why was someone in that position invited to this private party? Does that mean this auditor is on my side too? Seeing that thorough groundwork, I couldn't help but feel the strength of having a sponsor all over again. I won't be staying in Hinamizawa. I only come by routinely to check on the progress of the research. Oh, that's too bad. Hinamizawa's a beautiful place with clean air. Please come visit us out anytime. Outside of work, too. Thank you. I guess I will. If he really is an auditor, I should maintain a good relationship with this man. He'll hold the key to all future adjustments of our funding, so long as we continue drawing it from the SDF. Hey, I'm Okonogi. Nice to meet you. He's the commanding officer of the Mountain Dogs, one of our unconventional warfare units. They'll be stationed in Hinamizawa to provide you direct support, Major. Should I consider you my bodyguard, then? Their principal duty is guarding VIPs and preserving secrets. Think of them as your hands and feet, and work them hard. Thank you. Tomitake seems to be an honest type for a military man, but this Okonogi person looks the complete opposite. He also looks like a fucking rat. His main job is to preserve secrets, but I bet he's also good with espionage tactics like counterintelligence and information control. Yes, that would explain his demeanor. Since the SDF is funding our research on Hinamizawa syndrome, of course this is considered a military operation. Therefore, this research has to be done in secret. And that's why a unit like this is necessary. Besides, it's very reassuring to have someone capable of combat working under me. I should maintain a good relationship with him, too. Okay, enough introductions. Come on, Tomitake-kun, you can relax, too. Let's put aside our ranks today and have a toast. While this is supposed to celebrate the establishment of the Irie Institute, Irie himself isn't here. But that is his job, after all. Irie is simply a puppet to fill a seat. Of course, I expect him to help me a little with his expertise, but he's ultimately an outsider. This was supposed to be a gathering where I would show my appreciation to those who helped me establish the Irie Institute, but it's turned into them thanking me for all of my efforts. I'm always the one to pour alcohol for others, but today people are pouring alcohol in my glass. The new participants were trying to make me happy, and all the top people talked to me casually. They all praised my hard work and my efforts. My research is now recognized by many institutions, and I'm ready to spread my wings open wide. And all the people who are expecting some returns once the research accomplishes something are trying to curry favor with me. But right now, I'm just very grateful, regardless of their motives. Let's have a toast to wish the best of luck to Mio Takano-kun, and also to the new Irie Institute. Arai, Sensei, please lead the toast. It's like a dream. I know. This is just the beginning, and I shouldn't be satisfied with this alone. But just for today, I can forget about everything else and enjoy this celebration. I'm not a heavy drinker, but the drinks taste good tonight, and the more I drink, the happier I get. This really is wonderful. To be called Major by Tomitake and the others is wonderful too. That's the rank my grandfather had during the war. And that means I finally caught up with my grandfather. This is only the beginning. From here on, I intend to reach what my grandfather couldn't. This is the best night of my life. Okay. I ended up leaving to fix my makeup. I'm filled with elation. I need to feel fresh air to calm myself down. My heart is about to explode because I'm so happy. God, the rain is loud. The gathering is taking place a little distance away from the main building. It's getting louder! The restroom is in the main building, so I need to walk across the hallway. A beautiful and well-maintained Japanese garden is visible from the hallway. It's raining. I usually don't like rain, but I don't mind it at all today. I feel like even the raindrops are congratulating me. The cool air feels pleasant on my hot skin. It took me a moment to notice how unsteady my footsteps had become. Maybe I drank a little too much. It isn't like me to drink more than I can handle. Although this is a party, I don't want to embarrass myself, so I decided to cool off a little by looking at the beautiful Japanese garden. I found an elegant chair set on a red carpet nearby and sat down on it. Since I was with the associates until now, I was forced to constantly be on guard against embarrassing myself. But now that I was alone, I could let go and truly relax. When I look up to the sky, I realize it's still raining hard. But in the distance, the horizon is a little lighter. Maybe it won't be raining for much longer. Well, that's normal. Rain stops eventually. No matter how cold it is or how hard it's raining, rain stops eventually. I saw a pair of sandals and an umbrella, almost inviting me, so I took them into the garden. The tasteless laughter coming from the party sounds far away. I tilted the umbrella and looked up to the sky. I felt the raindrops hit my face. and gazed up at the sky for a while, forgetting all about my hair getting wet. Okay. Jesus Christ, the rain is fucking loud. Is there a place to turn down the sound effects? Yeah. You're not a sound effect, you're fucking music? Why is the rain music? Whatever. I thought the rain would cool down my boiling heart, but as my body got cold, I started to feel miserable. My bare feet were all swollen, and the throbbing pain I felt made them seem twice their normal size. The gravel road continued forever. I didn't even know what direction I was headed in anymore. I could no longer hear my pursuer. Oh, wait. Oh, you transitioned to, fucking her past again? I had probably lost him by running through the woods like mad. My body was covered in scratches. I finally started to feel the pain from that. I felt both cold and hungry. There was no place nearby to take shelter from the rain. I was just on a little path in the woods. My worst fear was that I could end up heading back towards the orphanage after bolting and losing my sense of direction. I had crushed that man's finger. I didn't think I bit it off, but I was sure it would leave a scar. Taking that into consideration, it was very clear to me what kind of torture awaited me back at the orphanage. Therefore, I'd have to reach the House of Love and Mercy. If only it had been daytime, then I could easily have found the right way to go. However, with this rain, there was nothing I could do. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep walking until I reached something. I wondered if Rika and the others had escaped safely. I didn't know how many people came after us, but at least one came after me. In other words, it meant they had a better chance. Did they reach the House of Love and Mercy? Were they drying themselves with soft towels? And if they still remembered me, would they save a towel for me too? I felt so cold. I wanted to find shelter and sit down, but there was nothing of the sort. I saw a tree that looked like I could take shelter under it, but the branches and leaves were dripping with water. Maybe it's a bit more atmospheric if I'm getting drowned out by the rain, you know? It was then that I realized that the sky was gradually getting darker. Would this day end in rain? There were no streetlights where I was. Soon enough, it would be totally dark. Then I wouldn't be able to walk any further. I just wanted to sit down, even if it was raining. But if I did sit down, I probably wouldn't be able to stand up again. So I endured. If I hadn't escaped with Rika and the others, I wouldn't have had to go through such misery. But compared to what I had to go through at the orphanage, this was nothing. Thinking about that was the only way to make myself move. But when I thought about that, it's true that this freezing cold rain was far better than my life at the orphanage. But that was only when compared to the life at the orphanage. Was it better than the normal lives of normal kids my age? I didn't even need to think about that. When my parents were alive, although we weren't rich, we led a normal life. The gentle smiles and forgivable selfishness. The sound of my mother cooking breakfast in the morning. The sound of a newspaper being folded. Precious memories like that. I didn't need anything else. I had plenty of friends. I had fun at school. I didn't like my teacher, but I liked studying. I had everything I needed. That was enough for me. I never complained. I never did anything bad. So why was this happening to me? Everything went downhill after that train accident. The die of fate kept rolling a 1. Ooh, that's a parallel. The die never showed its good side to me. If the accident was my fault, then I could have accepted it. But it wasn't. I wasn't even there. I waited for my parents at home. I liked going to the mall with them. We always had a meal at the restaurant in the mall. I always told them to let me know if they were going to the mall. But on that day, they went without me while I went to my friend's house to play. My friend wasn't in, so I went back home. I didn't see anyone at home and found a note that said they were going to the mall. I regretted going to my friend's house. I waited at home. They didn't come home. They were still gone by dinner time. I was getting hungry and got angry with my parents for leaving me. I thought they were having dinner at the mall restaurant without me. If I hadn't gone to my friend's house, I would be eating dinner at the restaurant too. I loved the little flags that came with the kids' meals. I was collecting those flags. Yes, I was. I was trying to collect 20 of them, thinking that once I collected 20, something wonderful would happen. But I couldn't collect 20 of them. I only needed one more. If I had one more, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. A very sad memory of a flag from a kid's meal. I kept waiting for my parents to come home from the mall. I was hungry, so I started to eat some dried fish. If I ate too much, my mother would find out, so I was careful not to gorge myself. Then the phone rang. I assumed it was from my parents. I answered the phone in an angry manner, but it wasn't them at all. What happened to the house? We had rented it, so maybe somebody else had already moved in. What happened to my room? What about my desk and all the flags that were in the right middle drawer? If it wasn't my house anymore, then where was I supposed to go? Even if it remained my house, my parents wouldn't be there to welcome me or protect me. Just because I didn't have my parents to protect me, the whole world became so cruel. How could anyone take me away from the house I was used to living in just because my parents were gone? Why didn't they just leave me alone? They asked me many things. They tried to confirm many things. But how could I have understood any of the forms they gave me? I was asked a yes or no question. I had no choice but to answer yes. And before I knew it, I ended up at the orphanage. It was beyond heartless. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a little girl. I had to sign so many papers. But why this? The warm and gentle world ended suddenly without advance notice. And I was thrown into the cruel and merciless world alone. Whop! Was this the real world? Did I have any allies at all? Just because my parents died and I didn't have any relatives, the world had become so sad. When is the die going to come up with a 6 instead of a 1 to make up for the continuous series of the latter? Tears were pouring down my cheeks. The salty taste further saddened and irritated me. I couldn't do anything but cry. But no matter how hard I cried or pitied myself, the cold rain wouldn't warm my body or save me. I didn't even know where I was or in which direction I should go. Eriko showed me the map to the House of Love and Mercy when we were planning our escape, but we only learned the shortest route. I was completely lost. But strangely, after I finished crying, I felt a groundless strength within myself. I once learned that tears wash away particles in the eyes, but there's a different purpose to them too. Tears also wash away what's in the heart. I clenched my fists and forced my feet to move. I headed in the direction that I believed to be correct on the gravel road. The rain was still pouring, and it was getting darker and darker. I roared at the sky amidst the rain. My sadness was turning into anger. Oh.
You stupid god! Why? What have I done to deserve this? What did I do? I didn't do anything! I was just living a normal life, that's all! So why this? My daddy told me there are good things and bad things in life, but neither lasts for long! That means this misery won't last that long either, right? I won't be all alone in this miserable place forever, right? Isn't that right?
As I looked up, I felt the raindrops hit my face. There is no God. I knew that in my heart. But such disbelief wouldn't save me. If I believed he was there, I should have been saved. No, I needed him to be there. Is he going to answer me? Nope. I heard thunder. Then I realized he was there. He was there. He was listening to me. In his eyes, everyone was supposed to be equal. And he was listening to me.
I've gone through enough! More than enough! If I was too happy before, then I could take this misery. But I wasn't! I was living a normal life. If you ask me if I was happy, then sure, I was. But this is what I get in return? That's not fair at all!
I heard thunder again. He was listening. I continued.
If this fate of mine was your mistake, then let me be free! Please, end my misery and let me be happy again! But if this is, in fact, my fate, and I'm supposed to live this way until the end, then I don't want it! Kill me! Kill me now with your lightning! Just finish me off now! Come on! Kill me ruthlessly! Right here and now!
I heard thunder again. It was loud enough to make me shiver. Normally, I would just hide in the house and wait until the thunder went away. But on that day, I wasn't afraid. Oh.
Come on! Kill me! Miyoko Tanashi is right here! Just like you killed my parents, take my life too!
The heavens replied to my provocation. The heavens took aim at me. A lowly human who dared sling constant insolent insults at them. That was my wish. I opened my arms. He's God, so he wouldn't miss me. However, I guess even God makes mistakes sometimes. Although he's supposed to be fair, he had been unfair with me.
Come on! Kill me! Take me to heaven! But if you fail to kill me, then try turning my destiny around!
Oh, excuse? I don't know what type of person's talking. Man or woman? Adult or child? I have an idea, but... yeah. Pitiful child. A flash from heaven. I thought I smelled something burning just before it hit. The sheer force knocked me to the ground. It was a strange experience. It was something that had just happened, but it already felt like it happened many years ago. I had no idea how long I was down for. I smelled something odd. The bad stench woke me up. When I looked, I saw that a huge tree behind me had been split open. Its leaves were smoldering. I looked up and saw sparks in the darkness. I couldn't understand what just happened. I just stood there. The thunderbolt had struck. It didn't strike me. It struck the tree behind me. I didn't get to die. He was telling me to keep walking in the woods in the cold rain. I won my bet with God. I bet my life. I bet my life against the lightning and thunder. It could have killed me instantly, but he missed. So he had to fix my life. I looked up at the sky, laughing and bragging that I was still alive. I heard thunder again. It was acknowledging its loss. Come on, God. Save me. I won the bet, so save me from this misery. Oh. Finally, she has a fucking sprite. Hello. I stood there. I waited for God to do something while the rain poured down on me. But he didn't answer me again. I couldn't hear the thunder anymore. Again, I felt the warm tears pour down my cheeks. What was I thinking? If there was a God in heaven, he wouldn't have let anything like this happen to me. My miserable life was the proof of God's non-existence. I can't speak. The darkness was about to swallow me utterly. Would I have to sleep out there? God must have wanted me to die slowly in this cold rain instead of granting me an instant death by lightning. I wish the sun would go away. I wish the sun would never rise. I wish that, as the woods had grown completely dark, my existence would be hidden by that darkness. I wished that I could just disappear. Had it been an eternity, or was it a matter of seconds? I couldn't even tell time in such darkness. It was then that I saw something. It was a light. I noticed it only because the woods were so dark. But was it really there? Had it been there this whole time? I felt like the light was inviting me towards it. It was a fluorescent light. I didn't normally like fluorescent lights because I always thought they looked cold. But I didn't feel coldness from that white light. I made myself believe that the light was a guide sent by God. I had to believe, otherwise I wouldn't be saved. The light reflected in a puddle. It wasn't a muddy puddle. It was a puddle on asphalt. I had made it out of the woods and was on a paved road. The light was a street light. Being on a paved road didn't really resolve anything. It was just a country road. It was a road that went through the woods, so there were no houses, no shops, and not even a single car going by, except for that one there. There weren't too many streetlights on the road, so it was still very dark. My feet touched the asphalt. It felt so different from the gravel I had been walking on earlier. It felt almost merciful. My feet had grown used to walking on gravel, but after feeling the softness of asphalt, I never wanted to go back to the former again. I could only choose between heading left or heading right. I was grateful for God, for leading me to this asphalt road, but I wish that he had given me a little more guidance. Such a little bit of luck couldn't make up for all the unhappiness I'd gone through. And that was when I sensed his guidance. I saw another light in the distance. It was only on the right side. I headed towards it. And when I got there, I understood what it was. I was amazed to find it there. A telephone booth. Who would actually make a call in the middle of nowhere? A telephone booth in the countryside was rather unusual. There were plenty of red public phones all over, but I had always thought telephone booths only existed in big cities. It almost looked as though the telephone booth had been put there as punishment for doing something bad. When I thought that, I felt lonely for I felt bad for the lonely telephone booth. It reminded me of myself. Even if I went inside the telephone booth, what could I even do in there anyway? I already knew the answer to that question, but no matter what, I just had to get in there. The door squeaked as I opened it. There were lots of moths and other bugs fluttering around the light. I usually hated bugs, but in that moment, I felt like they were my friends, sheltering from the rain like me. There was no heater, but it was still very warm inside of the booth. It sheltered me from the cold rain. Soon enough, I crumbled to the floor. The warmth from the fluorescent light embraced me gently, and I felt like it was telling me that it was okay to cry. But I had no more tears left, because I cried them all when the lightning struck. Aching scratches covered my body. My calves were in pain too. Everything hurt everywhere, and I didn't want to get up ever again. I wished I could fall asleep. But if I did that, the staff from the orphanage might find me. The windows on the booth were high up, so if I sat down, I wouldn't be visible from the outside. But as it was the only shelter in these dark woods, the staff would be sure to check it. That was why I couldn't stay there for long. Telephone booths from back then weren't completely made of glass, so it was possible to hide inside one. Thanks for the context. I figured that's what it meant. My exhausted spirit understood that I had to move, but I just couldn't make myself. Maybe I was experiencing some kind of vision. I felt a strange calmness that I never experienced before. I didn't feel that I was myself. It was very strange. I thought that maybe I was killed by that lightning. I'd assumed I was still Miyoko Tanashi, but maybe I wasn't her at all. I seriously considered those things. Then I started to think that the telephone booth had something to do with it. Because God led me there. He couldn't have done so just because it was providing shelter from the rain. There had to be something else. I wondered what it was. Could there be something in the booth that could save me? But what? A telephone booth is used to make a phone call, but I didn't have any money. But then, I noticed something that looked like copper. My heart skipped a beat. The 10 yen coin I saw wasn't there before. Did I just miss it? I didn't think so. It must have just showed up. In other words, this 10 yen coin was guidance from God. He was telling me to make a call with that coin. But who? There was no telephone book. In that case, I could only call a number I knew. Did God want me to do that then? There was only one coin. I could only call one number. And I couldn't talk for that long. I had challenged God earlier, so it was just a matter of course to think that God was challenging me in return. I had only one chance, and he wanted me to test my luck with that chance. I left the phone booth and looked up at the sky. Then I yelled in my heart, "You're on, God!" I wondered who I could call. Who? My house? My parents were dead and I had no relatives. Even if I called, nobody would answer. Actually, the phone bill wouldn't have been paid for a long time, so the phone line would already be disconnected. My house was my lost life itself. No, the debris of my life. Calling home would simply be an expression of regret, which ran counter to the positive attitude of one trying to change their life. So surely using the coin to call my house was wrong. Which meant I had to cast this 10 yen coin towards my future. Future. My future? What future anyway? Then I heard a huge thunderclap, which cleared my mind. Okay. In that clear state of mind, I saw something from the past. It was the last sight of my father. His final moments on the hospital bed. Though suffering from pain, he tried to tell me something very important. If by chance I am to die, turn to Dr. Takano. Dr. Hifumi Takano. Say it for me.
Hifumi Takano.
That's right. Dr. Hifumi Takano. He's my former teacher. He will help you.
Daddy!
Many doctors came into the room in a hurry. He wanted to tell me something else, but the doctor stopped him from talking, so it wasn't audible. It shouldn't have been, but it was to me. I heard it, but I didn't want to hear him say it while suffering, so I pretended that I didn't hear. He said it while coughing. I heard it. They were numbers. I swallowed once. That's right. It was a phone number. He knew nobody would take me in, because we had no relatives. He told me to get in touch with him, Dr. Hifumi Takano. He tried to tell me his phone number. What had I done? He tried so hard, using his last chance to tell me the most important thing. The thunder from earlier had made me remember it. The number I couldn't remember even once came out so smoothly. I dialed it in. This really was it. This was the number from my father's teacher, Dr. Takano. But my hand stopped just as I tried to put the coin in. What if I hadn't remembered it correctly? No, there was no need to hesitate. I had to believe in myself. This had to be the correct number. I had to dial it before I forgot it again. I picked up the phone and put the coin in. Beep. I heard the dial tone on the other end. At that point, I decided to kill myself if it didn't work. I could go back into the woods and wait for another lightning bolt. I could lie down and let the rainwater drown me too. I could also fall asleep in the middle of the road and wait for a car to run me over. I made up my mind and put the coin in. I didn't hesitate any longer. I dialed the number at once. But I had to be careful. If you dial quickly, sometimes you can make mistakes. I was getting irritated, and that almost made the phone number go vague in my head. I dialed the last digit and heard some electronic sounds on the other end. I hoped that I dialed the correct number. I didn't know what to say to Dr. Takano if it did connect. Or was I? What was I supposed to do? What was I supposed to ask him? I didn't know any of those things. Making a call isn't cheap. 1 10-yen coin would only buy me short time to talk. The line must have connected then. I heard a ringtone. I only had a short time once someone answered the phone. I thought for a moment that I should put the phone down. Then I could at least get the coin back. I could call back after sorting out my thoughts. But then someone answered. Hello? This is the Takano residence. I felt like I was suffocating. My memory had been correct. I couldn't tell the age of the speaker, but it was a grown man's voice. Anyone who was my father's teacher must have been quite old. Never mind that. I had to hurry and say something. Hurry.
Are you Dr. Takano? Dr. Hifumi Takano?
Yes, who was this? He must have been suspicious. I couldn't blame him. A stranger was asking him about his name. Of course he'd get suspicious.
I'm sorry. I'm Tanashi. Miyoko Tanashi.
Tanashi-san? Yes.
My father told me to get in touch with you. His name is Takemitsu Tanashi.
Tanashi. Ah, Tanashi-kun. I remember him. His voice suddenly changed. Dr. Takano had remembered his old student.
I'm his daughter. He told me to call you.
Did something happen to Tanashi-kun? Not good. I was going to run out of time.
My parents died in a train accident, and I was told to call you.
Tanashi-kun is dead? I see. Both of them? I'm sorry to hear that. I knew him from when I was teaching at a college. He was a very hard-working young man. I think the last time I saw him was at the wedding. Obviously, he didn't know I was born, but he remembered my father. That was truly a stroke of luck. So, what did Tanashi-kun want to tell me?
Well...
I didn't know what to say. I was only told to call Dr. Takano. How could I tell him that? My time was running out. I felt more and more anxious by the minute. Phone calls are disconnected without notice, but somehow I sensed it. I only had enough time left for one sentence, so I decided to say one sentence filled with all of my hopes.
Help me!
The phone call got disconnected. Maybe he only heard part of what I said. I could only hope he was able to sense my despair. I couldn't hear anything from the receiver anymore. But I actually talked to Dr. Takano. I confirmed that Dr. Takano existed. He existed, and he remembered my father. If he grieved over his student's death, he would come visit my house. And he would find out I was sent to an orphanage. Then he would come get me. That's when tears flowed down my cheeks again. I'd thought that my life was hopeless. I never knew that finding even a grain of hope could make me feel so happy and strong. The voice I heard on the phone was so warm and dependable. My father must have thought about me for a long time in that hospital bed, and came up with a name he could trust his daughter with. Dr. Hifumi Takano. So I could trust Dr. Takano. I had to believe that he would find me. But it might take more than just a few days. I'd have to wait patiently. A few days, a month, more? I could only wait patiently. Either way, I couldn't stay in the telephone box. The staff would easily find me there. I went out into the rain again. But this time, the rain felt a little warmer than before. I had wished to die by lightning. The rain is so fucking loud! But after that phone call, I was filled with hope and the will to live. Jesus Christ, it's like... Oh my god. I wanted to live, and that was why I felt pain all over my body. When I still wished to die, I didn't feel anything. I had to wait patiently until Dr. Takano came to pick me up. I had to get to the House of Love and Mercy. That would be the best place to wait for him. I didn't think the orphanage would tell him I escaped to the House of Love and Mercy. But the house wouldn't stop me from calling him. All I'd have to do was call him again and let him know where I was. But I didn't know where I could find the House of Love and Mercy. I couldn't see any signs anywhere, and I didn't even know what direction the orphanage I escaped from was in. But I couldn't just stop. I had to walk. I had to find shelter. I had to find someone and ask for directions to the House of Love and Mercy. I had to keep going, because I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. The chills and throbbing pain tormented me, but I couldn't die until I met Takano-sensei. I wish the car would come by. If it was someone who lived in the area, I could ask. It looks like she's in Hinamizawa, but these might just be the same backgrounds. But the police wouldn't do me any good. I was sure the orphanage had already called the police about our escape, and they wouldn't be forgiving. The police were sure to send me back to the orphanage. Either way, I wished that someone would show up. Otherwise, I'd have to keep walking on the asphalt in the darkness forever. How long did I walk? Still no car. It's right there. Just as I couldn't help but think that maybe the world perished, leaving only me behind, a car showed up. And it was Oishi. I sensed the car coming up behind me, so I turned around. I saw their headlights approaching me. I thought for a moment, should I stand in the middle of the street to stop the car? It was so dark. I didn't think the car would notice if I just waved at it. But if I were to stand in the middle of the street, I could get run over. While I thought, the car was getting closer and closer. When I made the phone call, I panicked and didn't know what to say. So with this car, I'd have to think very carefully. If I couldn't think of anything, then I should just let the car go. With those thoughts vaguely on my mind, I was incredibly surprised when the car slammed the brakes with a screech and came to a stop. Maybe I wasn't all there after that miraculous experience of lightning striking near me. I had half lost my mind in those dark woods, so I probably wasn't thinking very straight. Because the car had stopped after recognizing me. In other words, the driver knew who I was. And the only people in the area who would recognize me were... Uh-oh. Suddenly, a chill ran through my whole body. I started to dash away. I heard a voice calling after me. I no longer had the strength to run. My feet were trembling, and I couldn't make them cooperate. I realized then that I shouldn't have sat down in the telephone booth. That was why I couldn't keep running. I was suddenly grabbed from behind, the collar of my clothes almost choking me. I heard fabric being ripped. I fell in a puddle, and a staff member got on top of me. This time, his finger wasn't in my mouth. All I could do was struggle. As I did so, I remembered all the scary stories Rika and the others told me. All the torture the child who was caught had to endure. The drowned ducky punishment, the mashed caterpillar punishment, and the splayed piggy punishment. The names of those eerie-sounding punishments came to my mind. I screamed and struggled with all my might, but it was too late. I was shoved into the backseat of the car. Why couldn't they just let me go? Simple. They didn't want me talking about them to anybody. The staff were yelling and screaming while chasing me, but once we were in the car, they fell silent. It was like the Grim Reaper had come to get me. Whether I liked it or not, I had to come to terms with the fact that my luck had run out. But... I had called Takano-sensei, so I knew he would come to get me. I didn't know when that would be, but I knew it would happen someday. So, I wanted to live. I would be saved if I lived. I couldn't even imagine the kind of punishment that was waiting for me. But even so, I said to myself, I have to live. I'd already found the light at the end of the tunnel. All I had to do was endure until I reached it. The car stopped. We had arrived at the front gate of the orphanage. The two staff members grabbed my shoulders so I wouldn't run. My shoulders were very skinny, so it hurt a lot. I was scared. Scared of what I would have to go through. We went through the door, and I was finally sheltered from the rain. In a way, I wasn't sheltered at all, though. It was the middle of the night, and long past time to turn all the lights off. The orphanage should have been quiet, but I heard a noise. It was a strange noise. The noise of a shower. The noise of metal objects crashing into each other. Also, the staff's yelling and screaming. A chill went down my spine. What could I possibly write down to fully describe this fear? Wait, what? Is this a diary? Is this just a recollection of what happened? Or is it first person? A staff member knocked on the door of the storage room and the door opened. Or is that a fourth wall break? The moment it did, an angry roar issued from inside. The sight leapt into my eyes. I couldn't completely take in the bizarre scene before me. 2 staff members were hitting a mat with bamboo swords while yelling violently. It was a mat used in, you know, the one you use when you do gymnastics. But why was it rolled up like that? Oh boy. The rolled up mat was tied with a string and was standing up in the corner. The staff members kept hitting it. Usually words are said to a person. But why were they yelling at a rolled up mat? The way they were hitting and yelling at it, it was as if they'd gone mad. But wait, I could see something sticking out from the top of the rolled up mat. It was... let me see. Whose shoes were those? Oh, fuck. All of a sudden, I froze and couldn't think anymore. One man stood in front of me. The man's pinky finger was wrapped in bandages. My eyes moved upwards from his pinky finger and met with his. The beast's eyes met mine, peering with intent to devour me. I squeezed out a voiceless scream. My voice didn't come out, so it was more like a goldfish opening and closing its mouth. The beast stuck his little finger in front of me and roared. I couldn't tell if it was a word or a meaningless shriek, but I was certain it was something abusive. I was scared. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. I knew that Dr. Takano would show up to save me. That was why I had to live and submit myself to the fear.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Ah!
The hand with the bandages grabbed my hair and dragged me along. All I could do was apologize and beg for forgiveness while hoping the beast had even a tiny bit of mercy in him. I was like a broken, apologizing doll. A mad doll that kept muttering apologies until its key wound down. I was their toy, shedding tears, coughing blood, and apologizing in place of clicking gears. I could see into the shower room while he dragged me along. The door was open and I heard wailing from the inside. What I saw was very strange. There was a locker on its side in the shower. What an odd sight. A locker was taking a shower sideways. Oh, they're drowning a kid. That's fun. God, these guys are just fucking mental. So they think of these cruel-ass punishments. Like, if you're gonna kill kids, why think of these Danganronpa-esque creative ways to kill children? Like, holy fucking shit. I never even imagined anything like it before. The locker was taking a cold shower while 2 staff members hit it with bamboo swords. The bamboo swords again. That explained the metallic noise I heard before. The beast didn't want me to see that. He pulled my hair violently and twisted my neck so that I looked in the opposite direction. Then I realized he didn't do me to stop me from watching that shower. He did it to make me look at something else. I saw a window in a courtyard. Did they get all 3 of them? Jesus. Usually it was too dark to see anything, but the lights were on and the courtyard was very bright. Or maybe that Love and Mercy orphanage doesn't fucking exist, and it's a lie because they want to kill children. Did I say that line? But the lights were on and the courtyard was very bright. Then I saw it. Inside of the hen house, I saw XXXXX. What is that? X and X. X. That hair was Eriko's. X. X. But why was she X? That was far too X. Well, I don't even know what's being censored here. At this point, I probably can't voice screams after she sees all 3 of her friends being tortured to death.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm not doing the screams again. I don't want to die. I know Dr. Takano is coming to save me. I know he's coming. Can you stop doing this fucking screech? I was taken to the staff bathroom. It stunk of ammonia. Oh. Great. I saw an axe, which just doesn't fit in a bathroom. Why was this in the bathroom, I thought? He's not planning to kill me with that, is he? No way. No. Tanashi, this is your punishment for breaking the rules, okay? Everyone must follow the rules. If you don't, you get punished. Do you understand?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. I'll do everything you tell me to do. I promise, I really do. Please spare me. Please spare me from that. That hurts. No.
That's a scream. Why are these people so fucked up? Like, I guess I can understand why Takano goes absolutely fucking mental later in her life, because that shit is just ridiculous. Alright. Achievement unlocked, another chance. Still no tips, huh? I've had this screen 3 times, and we're 3 achievements in. So, what the fuck? Alright, well, I don't think there's a better place to end this episode than right here, because the fuck was all that? Jesus. So, one of the kids was rolled up in a fucking mat and being beaten to death. One of the kids was being beaten and drowned or waterboarded in a sideways locker in a cold shower, and another kid was in the chicken coop. Okay. Don't know how the fuck that one works, but yeah, that was fucking weird. Yeah, signaling the contact squad. That's gonna be it for this episode, guys. If you liked it, then be sure to press the like button. And if you didn't like it, then fuck you too. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all my videos and stuff. And as always, my name is Godzi, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.